So, what exactly is the relationship between my investigation that AIDS was an attack and COVID also was, and the war in the Ukraine? If you look at the binaryization that's going on, meaning you have to choose sides, you see that there's some universal program in the intellectual department towards Putin's war of aggression, but some disagreement as to whether America could have done more to prevent it by being rational ourselves. And the idea is to coach the issue, and is Putin really to blame? Noam Chomsky points out that Biden admitted that America was pushing for Ukraine to be um, working with the CIA and with NATO in potentially offensive fashion towards Russia, which is the act of someone who's insane towards Russia. The Ukraine has been historically a launching for um, fascist aggression, exactly as Putin says, and you're supposed to teeter-totter which one of these is more true, which one is more irrational, which one is more hypocritical, which one is more a standard of operation by tyranny, which one is more to blame. And that's what I mean by binaryization. And in that framework, everything that's in my research, the fact that there was a pornographic genocide, that they hid a dirty in a dirty place, is considered a wild card. I mean, Putin could grab it like a crocodile from his end of the swamp and say, see, here's another example of America's genocidal insanity. And Biden could say, Crary's a traitor because he won't play ball with the idea that Gail Burston was a secret Soviet missionary. The reason it can't be used as a wild card would be obvious to anyone who was slightly rational. It can't be used as a wild card because neither Putin nor Biden nor America or Bush said anything at all about it. This is 2022. Now, Chomsky talks about Clinton violating the letter of the agreement not to expand NATO. Well, Clinton, nobody needs to hear 1994 Clinton Fort Tongue without immediately thinking of the Black Blood letter, which was opened in front of witnesses at Carnegie Mellon University, which conclusively finalized that AIDS was a genocide project. The fact that evidence that they claim was in John Lennon's murder was found during an AIDS investigation. Now, let me run it by you. The way it looked at the time, new evidence of John Lennon's murder was found during an investigation into the AIDS epidemic. Is telltale because he was a symbol of the sex revolution. How did Clinton's fourth tongue shut that down? Well, he shut it down by saying that Reagan was the victim. Well, it's taken a long time to show why that's illogical and a setup. But they had it so that it snafu'd the whole idea that there was anything true about the investigation. Well, the whole investigation is true. Clinton was playing his orange haired crocodile role the same as Trump about the orange haired Leslie Katz. Oh, and they say, they're still stalking me for the money of the psychiatric pornography that they made. I mean, it's for them the perfect cover story that allows those who release AIDS to get away. And Putin is just Prince Charming as can be by saying we'll distract everybody by staging a war in the Ukraine. So if you really care so much, come out and die on the battlefield. Okay, so the wild card business is out of the question. So where does the issue actually begin to get explained? Well, the way that it gets explained is that neither Russia nor the United States have any use at all for anybody who can't defend themselves. The hysteria of Pittsburgh and Penis Gabriel, who's a really, really vicious ripper murderer, claiming to be from Amnesty International. The absurd idea that I deserved it came from Regina. You didn't fight back. You didn't do anything to defend yourself. How can you? So, when they're saying that a person who was brutally tortured because he couldn't defend himself as a child from things that were attacked from people who attacked him blindside, put all that into one framework is to blame that an organized mob of child sex traffickers calling themselves a community college, an organized mob of child sex traffickers made it out that virginity was evidence of rape. Put all that together, and you have a battered 61-year-old man who they are licky chops to steal from for his life's work, because anything else would mean that they would have to put into the history books the truth about the way that the AIDS generation was betrayed. And they have a fail safe, which is you can find in my writings, which is the way that the big brainwash machine of the British rock industry covered for the whole thing. The string puller in the whole thing was a weird dude who called himself a puppet master named Robert Fripp and his partner Penis Sinfield. They played with loaded dice that anybody in the honors department at Tacoma Community College can see. And said, well, Jimmy's so nice, he'll give us the money to save the earth for Greta Thunberg. And for them, it was cheap. They just came around when I had been tortured and said, now in the next stage of our community college endeavor, we want you to relax, little Jimmy, while we administer blowjobs for the Warhol secret cameras that we are going to use to blackmail you in later life so you don't talk about what really happened here, okay? And, it takes a pretty hefty imagination to think that Vladimir Putin would care about something like that. He was obviously in on it with Bush. The Trumpy tuned Putinese were what was going on in 1994 when Clinton pulled his first Ripper Hatter routine at Carnegie Mellon University when the Black Blood letter was opened in front of witnesses. So, Noam Chomsky was advised every step of the way, hey, now this is going on. Well, he's one of these. Anything that wiggles is part of his browbeating routine. What do we have linguistic evidence of there, Jaime Carpenter? Tell us what that means. What's that mean, Jaime? What's that mean, Jaime? You would think, Chomsky supposedly linguistic genius himself. He should have been the first person to say That person obviously heard those things when they were hostage and tortured as a child. You know, let's get this person to hospital and get some really legitimate questions put to them. But Jaime Carbonell was in computer mistranslations, and he had Andrew Swimmer, and Noam Chomsky was one of these. You know, oh, Andrew says he was wiggling. Well, yeah, I was wiggling because they had me flat on my back as a brain damage trauma coast hostage as a child, and these brutal adult violent pedophiles were telling me to allow her to relax and allow her to perform her routines for which she was infamous. And if I said no, they just bait me to a state of semi consciousness. And now they come and say, well, we're the community college and it's worth money. And don't you love us, you know, because we'll feed you tomorrow, maybe if you're lucky, if you're really lucky, and you agree to go along with us, queerbait. We won't stick that, we won't poison you in the mouth. Yeah, this is what is really going on with, not with Joe Biden, not with Putin, but with both of them. With the Trumpy to Putinese, they're not going to say the wild card is the truth about the AIDS and COVID attacks. What they're going to say is want to make something of it come to the Ukraine and bring your doggy spray, you non-violent nobody. You, they Regina made clear that the reason why people laughed at me because I was tortured was because I couldn't defend myself. I couldn't even defend myself from these mass murderers by saying virginity doesn't prove rape. It proves that I was non aggressive because she was pretty butch towards me for a really long time and intimate, and I let it go. She was nude, she was mouth to vagina contact, you know what I'm saying? A lot, and I never tried to. She fell asleep nude in my arms while out in the woods, and she still left me years later, still a virgin because I respected her wishes. That does not prove rape in anybody's mind, but Penis Gabriel and Robert Fripp and John Schulman, who were partners through the whole thing. Pittsburgh has one thing that they believe more than anything else: people who cannot defend themselves are unworthy of consideration. That's what was going on when Biden was encroaching on Russia. And that was what was going on now while Putin is bombing the blue daylights out of the Ukraine. These are people who work together on this so-called wild card, not people who are in a position to exploit it. These are people who will give no consideration ever to someone who can't defend themselves. That's why the UN Security Council was put together to begin with. That's why. That's why. That's why we have schools where people were treated as equals and taught to get along with each other and treat each other with respect. Everybody knows it's difficult. But when you start having leaders who say that nobody who can't defend themselves is worthy of defense of any sort, give us all the property, give us all the money, get out of the way. If we don't if we don't do it, someone else will, and all of the other things that come with tyranny, then you end up with schools that are closed, grannies who are dead, children who are afraid and wearing masks. That's what happened. And that's where we stand now. And we're not going to be building a future by saying something different than that, because that's our real past. That's our real present. That's real condition. I mean, Biden is one slippery man, you know, but he's whistled Dixie through the whole thing. You want to know the truth about Leslie Katz? It's that these people were a mob scene whistling Dixie. That's what them was. They were playing with loaded dice and they were whistling Dixie. Every last one of them. And there's a book called The Revenge of Power that says the same thing, which isn't so far fetched. The people who are demagogues like Trump and Duterte around the world have selected their favorites among the blacks and among the grievance, and they've said, "You are owed the world." And these people call absolutely blistering cruelty to somebody like me who just can't defend themselves. That's all I am. I'm a deaf man who can't defend myself. The corruption, the extortion, the evil, the cruelty, the Ripper murders, they call it restitution and equity. And that's a legerdemain from the Revenge of Power. You can't talk rational to somebody who thinks they got the big lucky lottery ticket win. So what they said was, you get this guy for us, and you get the big lucky licky chops lottery ticket, and that's what they. And well, he's a white, yeah, and do it for Trump, because Trump believes in you, and you are the honorary. Uh, he is the honorary black man. And they had these people saying the swastikas were sacred the African warrior symbols. And one guy has a big sacred the African warrior symbol on his arm, and he's dating the daughter of the man who made the Night of the Living Dead. And he's a big black man working for a super depraved, super parochial, super clean Fern Hollow Gang, Pittsburgh Tribune Review, Manchin, Joe Manchin. He's the good guy, right? He's the one who is going to rescue Trumpy Toon and Putin and the yacht building class from the squeak of Greta Thunberg and Vanessa Nakate. And if I'm real lucky, they'll take my hard-earned work and give it to those girls and let me say I love you. That's the Community College of Allegheny County's theory of operations for these berserkers who tortured a child and made a laughing stock out of them at Tacoma Community College, poisoning me in my mouth. And doing all of these horrendously cruel things like castrating me and raping the girl who taught me sign language and calling themselves by the name of the Green Party, equity, and they have the audacity to call me a witch because they use my poetry for bombings. And one of the people that's involved in this is Clarence Thomas. He's been involved with this Pianist Gabriel from not 1994 but 1985. And they're threatening to use a nuclear bomb on the United States of America from the Supreme Court of the United States. This is not a joke. This is the truth about the so-called wild card that they're trying to set it up that it gets to be played. We keep it quiet because Putin's going to use it. Who's going to get the wild card in this binaryization that's going on in the Ukraine? It's just one more loss of civilian life. Just one more loss of civilian life, man. Iraq was civilian life. It was. See, these people care nothing about anybody who can't defend themselves. That's the whole thing. Seattle has rules and regulations. BS. Seattle doesn't care about anybody who can't defend themselves. That's it. There's no more to it than that. Regina explained it to me. She said if you had fought back, they would have respected you. You couldn't defend yourself, so therefore they do not respect you. That's it. End of the story. And you can't defend yourself from the idea that virginity proves, right? Because Noam Chomsky says that what Jaime Carbonell's secret tapes mean is that you were wiggling as a prone well, what was I, 9 years old when they did these horrible things that Yoko Ono collects. I mean, it's not a wild card. It's not going to be used as a wild card. It's the truth. And it's as much Putin's doing as Trump's.